a part of where I failed. But anyway,
Okay.
I digress. I'll let you go. I'm sorry.
No. You were saying so much good stuff. I mean, you were dropping so many jewels. I had to take notes and make sure I get back to it. So the ending of the marriage for you, and I'll go into my story in a second, you guys, but the ending for the marriage for you was not a choice of your own?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I'm a
Okay.
fighter. I had a vision that, this was my forever. So, yeah, I had a hard time getting over that, so, but yeah, I was a fighter. I still am
Mhm.
a fighter, but, no, it was not
Absolutely.
my choice.
Absolutely. I can totally feel everything that you're saying here, John, because I too went through a divorce last year, and I always felt like I never wanted to be a hypocrite as a coach, as a motivator. I wanted to make sure that if I'm coaching people on how not to settle in life and love and relationships, that I too have to hold myself to that same accord and that same
Hmm.
standard.
Standard, yep.
So that being said, I actually made the decision to leave the marriage once I realized that the marriage wasn't in line wasn't in line with where God is taking me. And
Correct.
luckily I figured that out fairly early. And see, what I noticed in your story, and what I could tell my listeners about my story is, listen, guys, sometimes when you lose someone, you end up finding yourself. And I think that's a pertinent part in growth. And sometimes you cannot get to your true authentic self, and you cannot really tap into that power that God has bestowed upon you until you take some losses. If you notice, some of us will often hit our biggest pivotal moments in life and our breakthroughs in mental and spiritual and our mental and spiritual well-being after we've suffered a loss, after we've lost that close friend or that lover or that family member. And see, one
Hmm.
thing I can say is that in my marriage, I had to come to the realization that I am the author of my own life, right? So that being said, if I begin a story, y'all, and as I'm writing this story of my life, if I get to a point where I don't like the way that story is going, I have the power to trash that book and start a new one. And I think that was one thing that, for me, just to be transparent, that I came to terms with. I no longer cared about what other people thought about the choice that I was making, because I knew that at times in a relationship, you do have to choose you. You understand? So it's like being a relationship coach often means that I have to know not only how to love, but I have to know also how to love and let go. And I think that's the pivotal thing about marriage. I am a big advocate for marriage. Like John said, I'm huge when God is in line in the marriage. And I do feel like God was in my marriage. I don't feel like I married a horrible man who cheated on me. We were just different. Our personalities were vastly different. And I know what I truly deserve ultimately. And I truly can attest to the fact that at any point in time in my relationship, if I feel like I'm not getting what I deserve, I have the right to seek that. And I just want to encourage people. I don't encourage anyone to get a divorce. That's not what I'm saying. I would never tell someone what decision to make in their relationship. That's not my job as a coach. But my job is to enlighten you on different ways to look at things. If you're not getting what you deserve, to hell with everybody has to say. To heck with what's going on in your life. Sometimes God will snatch things up underneath your grasp because he has something better.
Hmm.
And so for me and my journey, I came to the realization in my marriage that my happiness would not be compromised for anyone or anything. My
Hmm.
peace of mind was way too valuable. And just like John, even though I made the choice to leave my marriage, listen, it's a transition, y'all. When you come to that pivotal moment in your life where you feel as though you need to get out of this relationship, or better yet, like John said, you are forced to get over this relationship. It's a breaking point. It may not be easy for many of us, but it's doable, because it's one thing that you have to understand, that no good thing would God hold from you. No good thing. If it is for you, it will be there for you. And I think that's the most important lesson that he and I both learned. And I'm continuously evolving into a better woman because of these experiences, because of these bad choices. So, and I don't even know if I want to say bad choices. I maybe just, these learning lessons that
Mm-hmm.
are really building me into a better coach and helping me to really be able to relate to my listeners and the folks that I coach.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you said, sometimes in relationships, we can begin to grow in different directions. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that was something that you touched on, and that's something that I can attest to as well. With my ex-husband, we begin to grow in different directions fairly quickly. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I feel like is absolutely important to realize in a relationship as soon as you can is whether or not that person can love you, is loving you only for who you were, and not for who God is bringing you, the person that God is bringing you and building you up to be. And some people can only love you for that person they met, right? But in life, we are constantly changing. That's one constant force in each and every one of our lives, is change. We're constantly changing. So the question is, who can love you through those changes? Who can
Right.
you love through their changes? It's not just about you. It's about who can you love as they go through their changes in life, and they evolve and they change and they morph into from a caterpillar into a butterfly. Who can
Correct.
you really love on that plateau?
Correct.
John. So
God is.
mhm. No, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I'm
I was
sorry.
done. I know
God.
I was done, honey.
You crazy. Uh, God is preparing you for who is prepared for you. You know,
Deep.
that's really the way it goes. But ultimately, what I feel everything boils down to is just taking the time to really know yourself first, and getting to
Right.
know the person you're married. Allow yourself time to court, um, to where spiritually you feel edified in this person. Like you feel you see a
Mm,
reflection. You
right.
feel that this person balances you in the ways that you need. You're physically attracted to this person, but ultimately, spiritually first should be something I think a person should seek. And just taking your
Absolutely.
time and then keeping God first. And I think that's where I felt, or where we felt. God was present, but it wasn't like that we wasn't working or keeping God present. It was just we
Right.
was just operating on grace, like I said earlier. And grace will take you a long way. Favor is
Absolutely.
powerful. So, and we lasted that long because of it. And so I definitely relate to a woman who feels like they have to believe, because I was lacking a lot of stuff. I'll be admit, I gotta be a man and call it what it is.
Right.
I didn't get it, but at the same time, the other, there has to be some accountability to understand that, I wasn't experienced. I was
Right.
learning as I was going, and unfortunately, a lot of marriages start off that way. And I'll add another thing to this: a lot of people operate off of what they saw growing
Right.
up. Like my parents were married at 20. My grandparents were married in their teens. My uncles were married at 19, 20.
Wow.
All my examples growing up were married at 20. So
Hmm.
subconsciously, I did not know I was operating off of what my examples were doing. I felt like I
See.
was I was supposed to be married. Like in order, I was in the military. I'm making my own money. I was like, dang God, where's my doggone wife? Why am I alone?
Right.
Everybody I know was married by then. So subconsciously, I had a weight on me that wanted to be married, and I feel like a part of that kind of made me rush the process. Not saying that we weren't in love, it just made me kind of rush the process. Like love
Right.
will always be there. You can still take your time with somebody you love, you know, because the person who they are, is yet to be discovered, and you can learn more and more and more versus
Right.
just meeting someone and, oh, let's look for a relationship. No, let's look for a friendship. Let's look for see if we
Exactly.
can let's look and see if you're my best friend, because that's the
Absolutely.
core of where we're going to uh, thrive and be successful. If I don't feel like you're my best friend, then why are we getting married? Why do you even
Exactly.
want to marry me? You know, and ultimately that's what it's about.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I feel like you have to set that foundation as friends. And even, listen, I'm going to be realistic. I mean, I'm not saying that every relationship that's built off of a friendship will work. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's important to recognize when it's not working. And it's
Hmm.
important to not be afraid to recognize when it's not working and when you have to make tough
Hmm.
decisions for yourself. And it's also important to understand that if someone walks away from you, okay, let them go. Let them walk. Let them go wherever it takes to make that person happy. Because at the end of the day, if your mate is with you and they're not truly happy, you won't be happy either. So there is no situation where, you know, I'm not saying that you can't fight for a marriage, but you can't fight by yourself. And sometimes God will cause a person to leave you because he knows you don't have the strength. And
Hmm.
that is and ultimately that is the point of this whole topic today, is that guess what? Life will always go on. So if you are coming across that pivotal moment in your relationship where someone has walked out of your life, where you are tuggling with what you deserve, I just want to drop a few jewels on you guys, and I'm gonna let John give you the male perspective. John, if you can give me a few ways in which, and I know you kind of touched on it, but just reiterate for those who were, you know, not listening all the way. But give me a good 2 to 3 ways that you adapted or whatever to help you cope with the letting go of that relationship. And we have about less than probably about 7 minutes on the clock. So to
Okay.
maybe just drop some, if you could motivate somebody out there that's trying to cope with a breakup, what would be the top things that you would tell them to do?
Seek value in yourself.
Mm,
Seek God first, but seek value while you're seeking God, because God is going to add the value, because you're going to be spiritually depleted. You're going to be distraught. You're going to feel like that it's the end of the world and you don't want to start over.
mm,
It's going to be a lot of pain. You're going to cry at night. You're going to reflect and live in the past. Try not to
right,
live in the past. Try to always focus on the future, because ultimately know your value and know that if the person left you, then apparently they didn't recognize your true value. But only
absolutely.
only you know your true value and your worth and what you're capable of. And it sometimes it takes the person leaving for you to get that. So ultimately it's all for a purpose. It's all divine.
Absolutely.
It's all a part of you getting you to your best version of yourself. And
Absolutely.
once you learn that, even though it's a tough and hurtful process, the future is great. The future is
Wow.
joyful, and
Yes.
is
Yes.
and you just really just seek value, And I know
Yeah.
you may be stuck. Some people may be stuck on for better for worse, the death do us part, which ultimately could mean to anybody you should be able to endure anything.
Right.
But if that person that you were married to doesn't see that too, and apparently what uh the failures of the marriage bought made that person leave, then you got to accept it. And
Right.
it may take some time. And once you accept it, then and you're also accepting that that person did not love you as much as you thought they did, because you
Hello.
are still there. You are deciding to fight regardless of
Right.
what they did or what you did. You are
Hmm.
trying to stay. But if that person is leaving, then they made the choice to leave, which means they broke that
Absolutely.
bond. They broke that love bond that you both created together. And
Right.
apparently as uh, it wasn't as a huge love as it is to you to them. It
Absolutely.
wasn't as
Yeah.
valuable to them as it is to you. So they just really made you see it clear, pretty
Right.
much,
Right. Right.
ultimately.
Right. Right. Right.
So
Yep.
so yeah, I just pretty much I would stay there and just seek value add value,
Okay.
continue to add value, hang around
Yes,
those
yes,
that
yes.
add value, you
Love
know.
it. I absolutely, that's the, y'all, he just dropped some